doesn't seem to matter what I do. I'm always number two. No one knows how hard I tried.
Hey guys, welcome back to Pretentious Cinephile 1982. We are in episode 12, and in this episode we're just going to be talking about my top 5 Ryan Gosling films. And this is in preparation for... It was going to be in preparation for Project Hail Mary. However, I have seen it twice already, so with that I can update my list to include it or not include it. So stay tuned to see or to hear if I will be doing that or not. And as usual, you guys can find more of my writings and blogs and podcast episodes on pretentiouscinephile1982.blogspot.com. Type us in Pinterest and YouTube, Pretentious Cinephile 1982. And before we get into my top 5 Ryan Gosling films, wanted to touch upon really quick. I am talking on March, it was Monday morning, late Sunday night, early Monday morning, March 23rd, so it's about 8 days ago. We had the 58th annual Oscars. Let me just double check that real quick. The 98th Academy Awards ceremony. I was way off. Which, first of all, had a fantastic show. My boy Conan was back. I loved him ever since Late Night with Conan O'Brien. Saw him a couple times when he was on The Tonight Show live. Saw live taping, thanks to my cousin there. And saw a couple of his Conan TBS shows. Was just really happy for him to be invited back. And he was great. You know, I loved his kind of biting, self-deprecating sense of humor as per usual. He had a great opening montage that he went through all of, the main Best Picture nominees, like I believe it was like Weapons, Hamnet, One Battle After Another, Sinners. He even went through, they even did an anime K-pop Demon Hunters version of him. It was awesome. I thought he did a great job. Maybe a little dialed down from last year. Maybe it was the excitement of him being on for the first time last year or something like that. The novelty wore off, but still loved him. And really happy for, obviously, One Battle After Another. Huge PTA fan here, and he never got an Oscar. Was really happy for him. He was like, Marty Scorsese 2.0 all over again. Still think he should have won for There Will Be Blood. Generational fucking film. Will be talked about, is on a lot of people's best decades, maybe in the past 20 years lists, of all time. Kind of, it's one of those films, like up there with Citizen Kane, I would say, like the modern Citizen Kane, or, I mean, it takes place in the past, but the modern, updated, very similar themes, and just the grandeur of it all, the ambition of that film. Really happy for One Battle After Another winning Best Picture. I believe it took home about like 4 overall, something like that. Sinners as well. Those two were the heavy favorites that kind of split a lot of the big awards. And my boy Timmy didn't make it, of course. All the controversy with him being up his own ass and talking shit on ballet and theater, all that stuff just really bit him in the ass, didn't it? But really happy for Michael B. Jordan. It seems like the Academy these days go with the more seasoned guy that's been around. They're not gonna probably give it to the younger person unless it's like out of this world amazing, like all the Academy members just like unanimously voted for that performance. But I wanted to get into really quickly, if you guys listened to my past Laser Boy episode, me and a good friend of mine, Dat Nguyen, talked about the 2020 Oscars, whereupon I believe Parasite won Best Picture, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was a heavy favorite and won only like one major one, I believe Brad Pitt for Best Supporting Actor. And we were really discrediting Parasite. We loved the film. I think both of us had it number 1 on our top 10 films of 2019 that year, but we were like, no, they're never going to give it to international feature. No way. They're traditional. You know, they're gonna go with period pieces. That's why, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was just such a heavy favorite as far as tradition goes with Academy voters, and it didn't win. Dat Nguyen predicted, hey, if this wins, it's going to be that's the only other choice, right? It's between that and Parasite. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Parasite. Parasite ended up winning, but in that episode, Dat really kind of schooled me on the process of the voting, which I never really thought of. I was just like, oh, just a bunch of old white men vote, and they usually pick, the most traditional film, the middle of the road film that offends no one, and it's just like not polarized. And so this is why this system has existed since the 30s and the 40s, and it was reintroduced in 2009 when the Best Picture category expanded to 10 nominees, and it's pretty much designed to ensure a winner that a majority of members truly support, rather than a niche film that wins with only 15% of the total vote. So it's kind of like I read somewhere, I think I saw a YouTube short, that it's like the way Australian elections are held. So it's really like the most nominal choice to win, to proceed with, like it's a very fair voting system. I believe this is what they're hinting at here. This AI is hinting at. Kind of weird to say, but I've always thought, yeah, this is a weird system, and I've always thought that, yeah, this is why usually middle of the road films win, like The Green Book, or my most polarizing year was King's Speech over The Social Network. Again, The Social Network today is viewed as generational film, like super relevant to our culture and to our younger generations especially. And I've always thought that I didn't know about this voting system, but I always thought they snubbed it because the voters were old, they didn't get it, and get social media, and why this new age of billionaire is so CEO type, Zuckerberg types, or tech billionaire types are so important. I always thought that they kind of resented that culture, those people, but it's not like that at all. It's really a fair system. And again, the middle of the road film won as per this explanation. Moonlight was definitely the more art house choice of the two, but I believe its cultural and emotional impact probably left a bigger imprint on Academy voters than La La Land did. Anyway, with all that being said, I just wanted to let you guys know about this preferential ballot system, because this is how Best Picture winners are voted upon, and I've always kind of looked down upon when my film didn't win, but it's all fair in love and war, and in love and art, right? So this way of voting is highly optimal, I would say. And with that being said, maybe I feel like Ryan Gosling is a more of a crowd pleaser. He's like more comedic. He has good dramatic chops, as we're going to discuss in my top 5 list. But can he win an Oscar? Will he win an Oscar for Project Hail Mary? Who knows? We'll see. I think he had a better chance with dramatic films in the past, but we will have to see. I don't know if he'll win. I think he'll at least win a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a musical or comedy, but we will have to see until next year, next January. It's not that long away. 10 more months. Not long at all, right? Okay, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed 98th Academy Awards, Oscars. I had a lot of fun. Really happy for all the winners. And it's going to bring us to my top 5 films of Ryan Gosling. And I got into Ryan Gosling a little bit late. I'm not going to go through his entire career like I did with Timothée Chalamet, but long story short, guy was, Mickey Mouse Club, Disney Channel, just like, Leo, starring a lot of teen stuff, Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, got into Remember the Titans, The Believer. I believe he played, a Jewish neo-Nazi, something like that. And I haven't seen any of those. And then he came into really high prominence with The Notebook. He did a couple stuff in between that. I don't want to go through them all. But The Notebook was, the rom com, I guess the romantic dramedy drama. I've never seen it, so but the only way I've never seen The Notebook. I wanted to watch it for this show in particular, just to gauge how culturally relevant it was, and if it still is. How I know about it is through pop culture references. Like maybe I saw it on a clue on Jeopardy, or maybe pop culture Jeopardy. Mainly, I know it from the Big Bang Theory character Rajesh Kutapalli, in particular, who loves rom coms, loves Sandra Bullock, my girl Sandy B. He quotes The Notebook. He's a hopeless romantic, and a lot of, I guess, teenage young adult females love the movie. This was a film they grew up with, and it's a film about a young couple in the 1940s. I'm reading from the wikis here, and from what I gather, from what I know about the pop culture references, it's a film, or it's a story about longing, right? It's You love this person because you can't have them, right? You can't attain them, and it's like there's some time machine thing that keeps them apart. I don't know. I don't want to get into it because I haven't seen it, but it was an important film for him. Barnum made him like sex symbol. I want to say had to have, and a couple of stuff that I'd never even heard of till this day. In between the Stay, Half Nelson. I've heard of Lars and the Real Girl. Here's where it gets interesting. Okay, so after '07, I read a little bit about his background. He stepped away from the spotlight a little bit, gained some weight. No judgment there. I understand completely where you're coming from there, buddy. And stepped away for about 3 years, came back. And here's where I really, really paid attention to him, because a girl I liked, I went on a date with her. She was an actor in one of my no budget, no wave films that's inspired by, CBGB type New York no wave films like Amos Poe and henceforth after Jim Jarmusch. Anyway, I shot it on like Digital 8, and I was making, very experimental new wave, no budget films that had no dialogue and very experimental. And I liked this girl, my lead actress. Very cliche, I know. I took her out after I was coming off of a breakup, and which is why this kind of era made a huge impression on me. I took her to see Blue. Oh no, wait, no. I took her to see another movie, like a very indie French movie. I forget what it was called. She really liked the director, and she would not stop talking about this Ryan Gosling guy. It was actually in 2011. So she had just, I remember she talked about his like scorpion jacket in Drive, and she was like swooning over him, and she was like, I loved him in Blue Valentine, and that's what really kind of piqued my interest. I'm like, oh, who's this guy that you're swooning over? And that's when I looked up Drive, looked up Blue Valentine. Blue Valentine. This movie is, I don't want to say tug on your heartstrings. That's the wrong. It puts you through the ringer. It feels like if you've ever been through a breakup, a really awful breakup, one where you just love, like your first love, maybe your first love, your first breakup. You know how that feels. This movie puts you through that. It feels just so real. Feels so verite. And they go through a marriage. They have a daughter, and it's Derek Cianfrance, who was just this wunderkind director, indie filmmaker, director, and writer director. Is Ryan Gosling and Michelle Williams, and they're like these two young, broke hipster types, and they have nothing but themselves. It's just one of those movies that really hit me emotionally, and loved it ever since. And then I followed this director to Derek Cianfrance, and then loved Place Beyond the Pines. And 2011 was an amazing year for him. Crazy Stupid Love, Drive, The Ides of March, which I also wanted to rewatch, but I haven't. Place Beyond the Pines in 2012, Gangster Squad, which I believe he directed. No, it's Ruben Fleischer. Only God Forgives, again with teaming up again with Winding Refn, the Danish director who's like colorblind and uses all this great neon. He's almost like the Danish Wong Kar-wai, I want to say, just like Wong Kar-wai meets, I don't know, early Scorsese, just like greedy crime drama types. Then he directed, I'm going back to Ryan Gosling here, directed a film, Lost River, which was critically lauded. I don't know, it seems like he takes place in Thailand or something, looking at this poster, but maybe not. Eva Mendes is in it? Oh wow, that's his wife that he met on The Place Beyond the Pines. Gets into The Big Short, 2015, where he plays like this sleazy stock trader guy. I loved him in that. Brad Pitt was also, Christian Bale's also in that. The Nice Guys, also Shane Black movie. I love that too. What happened to that? That movie rarely gets talked about these days, right? And then into La La Land, Song to Song, Blade Runner 2049 and 2017, First Man 2018, teaming up again with Chazelle, who he worked with on La La Land. Took another break there, to spend time with his kids, his wife. COVID probably had a huge impact. 2022, The Gray Man with the Russo brothers. I think he starred with Cap there, Chris Evans. Here's where he's like A-list actor now, right? I would say he's A-list since La La Land. After La La Land, he's the hot item. Gray Man, Barbie. Barbie's where his stock just rises, just skyrockets. He's in film, makes $1 billion, is a cultural behemoth. Barbenheimer was a thing. You guys remember that 3 years ago? Almost 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And The Fall Guy, David Leitch, or Litch, I don't know how you pronounce that, sorry. Based on the old TV show where he stars with Emily Blunt, the two leads from Barbenheimer. How can you go wrong? It flopped. I love the film personally. It's very insider information with the industry there. He plays like a stuntman who takes the quote unquote fall for another actor for a murder. That's all I'll say. Apparently he's in this film called The Actor. Never heard of it. Maybe, you know what, he executive produced it only. Okay, never mind, he's not in that. And then we get into Project Hail Mary here, which is on my list, 2026. And then he's going to make, it's in production right now, post-production. And he's in Star Wars Starfighter. He's in Star Wars, guys. He's the lead in the Star Wars movie, directed by Sean Levy, the guy who did what's that Ryan Gosling? Well, he did Deadpool and Wolverine, but before that, it was that Free Guy. Yeah, it's Free Guy. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's went longer than I expected, but here, let me go do my top 5 list, and that's gonna end the episode. Okay, guys. All right. So from 5 to 1, here it goes. My number 5. I bumped Blade Runner 2049 for my number 3, but here's my number 5. The Fall Guy. I just talked about it. I love this film. I saw it for the second time recently for this podcast, and didn't work as well as it did the first time. Maybe the first time I was just so like, why? I was like, why did this film flop? I was just so like flummoxed by the novelty of I love films about films, as you guys know. I've probably said that many a times on my other podcasts. I love niche films about films, and this is about a stuntman, not about and not about the lead actor. The lead actor is kind of, the heavy. He's the bad guy, and it's a love story. He longs for the camera operator who becomes a director, and he thinks that she hired him for this gig, but it's a whole complicated, labyrinthian case of who done it. They're framing him for something really nefarious, and it's just a lot of fun, guys. I love this film. The film underperformed at the box office, as I said earlier. It's a breezy 126 minutes, maybe 120 with 2 hours without credits, and it has a great stinger, that honors real stunt people. Most of the stunts here, I gotta say, probably real. This like this is what Death Proof was could have been if it was more ambitious with its action sequences. Death Proof is probably the better picture, obviously, but okay. So the budget was around 125, maybe 150 million with marketing, maybe even more. Box office was 180, so it seemed like it broke even or maybe it made money, but marketing they never list the marketing budget here, so I gotta say think that it lost money. Distributed by Universal, directed by David Litch. God, I don't know how to say that. Sorry. Written by Drew Pearce, and I had a lot of fun with it. This is, I wanted to encompass most of the genres of this guy's, best films. So this is, I guess, my action comedy epic that really underrated. I feel like it's gonna be a cult favorite though. It's gonna be definitely one of my favorite films about films, and one of my favorite Ryan Gosling films. It made crack top 5. So there you go. That's my number 5. Ryan Gosling film, The Fall Guy, from 2024. And my number 4, going into Drive, 2011. Talked about this earlier about how I have an affinity for this era, just because maybe this is where he like kind of came on my radar, and I love this film. This is what turned me on to Winding Refn too. Nicholas Winding Refn, very niche, very fetish. He calls himself a fetish director, which sounds dirty, but I think what he means is that he's very like he focuses on one thing, one like very small tiny thing, and then he expands upon it. In this case, it's this. I think he described it as he pitched this to Ryan Gosling as they were driving on the street. He was like just getting into, I guess, like American movie making. He made films in Denmark. He's a Danish filmmaker. I'm talking about Nicholas Winding Refn, and he was driving around with Ryan Gosling, maybe trying to, getting some meetings with studios, with some producers, pitching stuff, right? And obviously, he's probably up and coming director, working for very little money at the time, so just so he can get his foot in the door, and he pitched to Ryan Gosling as they're driving around, hey, let's make a movie about a guy who drives around listening to pop music, a killer, I think he said. And Ryan Gosling was like, I'm in, like instantly he just agreed to get it. He was himself, Ryan Gosling, redefining himself to where he was in his career after 2007. So a good way to do that is just to not say no, right? You probably do have to say no to stupid stuff, but in this case, it's the stars align. They agreed on what they both liked, and there you have it. Drive is this really deliberately paced neo noir. I remember a woman demanded her money back after watching the movie for maybe 30 minutes and saying, "This movie's called Drive. Like, there's no driving." It's just, I can see where that can be misleading as well, but you gotta have an open mind. Come on now. Carey Mulligan's in this. Oscar Isaac. Albert Brooks plays a menacing, out of type character. Bryan Cranston. Wow. Christina Hendricks. Remember her from Mad Men. Ron Perlman. Wow. Incredible cast. Again, I said deliberately paced. It's a vibe. It's a mood. I hate saying vibe. It's a mood. A mood piece. It feels very European. Great. Italo disco. I really got into that soundtrack when I heard it. All those guys, Johnny Jewel. I can't remember. It's been so long since I was like really immersed into that. Just that kind of 80s nostalgic synth, dark synth kind of. This movie hits all of those beats for me, and if it's not Gosling who plays his role, I don't think this character is very likable. He's just, even though he does bad things and he's very, he has this kind of code. It's the killer's code where he doesn't hurt innocents or helps a woman with a kid, with a single mom who can't get by, and then it's his charm and charisma that really, again, that's going to play a huge part in other films I have as well on my list, but it doesn't work without him. Maybe it does, who knows, but for me, for now, it doesn't. And Drive, that's why Drive is my number 4. Wanted to put a little indie in there. I think I have another one, but Which brings me to my number 3. I may have recency bias for this film because I just saw it twice. One on standard screening and then one in 70mm IMAX film. Hopefully going to be talking about it more with a friend of mine who read the book and was severely disappointed by it. And I was shocked because, the consensus is universally acclaimed. Everyone loved it. My theater, both of my screenings loved it, loved all the jokes, loved the fast pace, even though it's kind of, I probably should name the movie before I get into it. And that is Project Hail Mary, guys. That's number 3. The first big movie of 2026 by Lord and Miller, who were famous for being fired from the Han Solo film from 2018. They went on to do the Spider-Verse films. I believe they did, 21 Jump Street. I want to look that up real quick. The Lego movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, 21 Jump Street, 22 Jump Street. And yeah, it's a shame that they were fired from Solo. Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm had a bunch of problems during that era, as is widely reported. And this film was, I was talking to a friend of mine who I saw the film with just recently, that it's like a subgenre of Andy Weir and Drew Goddard, who adapted the novel by Andy Weir, where guy stranded in space needs to science the shit out of his way home, or to save the world in this case. Mild spoilers, sorry guys. I had a blast with this film, science fiction adventure film. Again, most of the film is him, with a faceless alien, Rocky, who is beloved. I love him. Amaze. You guys probably won't get that if you haven't seen it, but sorry. It won't work without him. It won't work without his charisma, or Riz as the kids call it, and his charm, and his sardonic, self-deprecating humor. He's just very wisecracking. Sometimes I I fail to see how scientists are that sharp-witted. I guess this case he is a molecular biologist. I want to say, molecular biologist. Thank you. I hit it right on the nose. I wasn't. I swear, guys, I wasn't reading from the wiki at all. But I guess I've seen it twice in a few days, so something stuck. Ryan Gosling plays Dr. Ryland Grace, an astronaut on a mission to save humanity. And like I said, most of the film is him, talking head, like doing testimonials into a camera, just like the Matt Damon character in The Martian, because he's alone and he to keep himself from going crazy, he needs to talk to somebody, and he's documenting this as well for the scientists back home, for when they have to reevaluate his work, his findings. I believe that's the term, right? I watch a lot of Big Bang Theory, guys, so I know a lot of like faux science talk. I guess that's kind of funny scientist there. I guess Big Bang Theory walked so Project Hail Mary could run, right? But I had a blast with this guy's crowd pleaser. He is just so funny. He's just so engaging. Like, there are some slow beats. The whole movie's kind of slow. Like, not slow, but like him by himself. That shouldn't work. That should be boring, right? It should be, at the very least, like unengaging. But he makes it engaging, and that's a testament to his presence, his on-screen presence, I keep saying charisma, but his attitude, his charm, I love him in this film. It would be number 1, but I had to bump it down a few notches just because these other two are so good. And in hindsight, I don't know, maybe it would drop, but because I do have some problems with the film. We're going to get into that hopefully in a later episode. I'm going to be talking with my pal who doesn't like the film. I haven't done that much, talk about a film that one of us dislikes. I rarely talk about a film I dislike, so why would I do that, right? But sometimes it could be interesting, conversation, dichotomy, or something to dissect, and get into in depth, respectfully, of course. And hopefully we're going to get to do that soon. And that is my number 3, Project Hail Mary from 2026. Like 2026 was so long ago. We're living in 2026, guys. Sorry I'm talking so much. I'm rambling, kind of. This is what happens when you live alone. But it brings me to my number 2 film, a film from 2012, and that is The Place Beyond the Pines. He's in the film, Ryan Gosling, for about half of the running time, maybe even like not 1/3, like 1/2. I can't really do the math, but he's not in it for for the whole film. This film is an ambitious kind of saga. It takes place across generations, where Ryan Gosling met his wife, Eva Mendes, stars Bradley Cooper, Ray Liotta, and he plays like a bank robber. He plays this really, again, he should be despicable, right? Like this guy who just is a criminal, like career criminal. That's all he's ever known. He is a circus performer. He rides, a motorcycle, touring. He's kind of like this nomad, vagabond type. So he's never known consistency. He's never known, one location, to ground himself, right? And it's been a while since I've seen this, maybe a year ago, but I try to revisit this at least every couple of years. He's a motorcycle stuntman from riding a carnival, and that's where he meets, his on again, off again lover, played by Eva Mendes. And one of the tragic parts of this film is, they have a kid, and he wants to provide for I think it's him, yeah, provides for his son, and the only way he knows how to do it fast, he doesn't want to live, paycheck to paycheck, and he loves his girlfriend so much, and he doesn't know what to do, but resort to a life of crime. That's the tragedy of it, right? It's a criminal with a heart of gold, right? He's doing it for not for nefarious purposes. He's doing it for more, moral purposes in his eyes, right? And to us as well, I would say. And one of the most heartbreaking moments of this film, I keep going back to this image. The Eva Mendes character has her head on straight. She knows that this relationship is doomed. He has ever been in one of those toxic relationships where it's like you're so passionate about them, maybe sexually, maybe physically, right? And then it turns emotional, but logically you cannot be with this person, but there's something inside you that just like clings to them, and having a kid like really complicates that as well, right? And they are together. The kid is already born. I think they're like having some ice cream, and yeah, she has a boyfriend already. They're exes, played by Mahershala Ali, is her like more stable, grounded relationship, right? That takes care of her kid, her kid from another guy, and they're having ice cream, and somebody like takes a photograph of them, maybe a Polaroid, and for one moment they're like a little family, and she cries. The Ava Mendes cat. What is her name? I'm gonna. Romina? Yeah, Romina. I would never guess that. She starts crying like profusely. Just she can't hold it in anymore. Like I found that just completely heartbreaking. She knows the tragedy of this situation. She knows she loves this guy illogically with every fiber of her being. Maybe not every fiber of her being, but she loves him passionately. But she can't be with him. And that is just one of the most tragic scenes, and it has stayed with me. It just that shows you the power of the two actors, the writing, and I don't want to get into the rest of the story. Dane DeHaan plays the grown-up version of his son that he becomes kind of like carbon copy of him kind of thing, and Bradley Cooper plays, spoilers, plays the cop that kills him, the Ryan Gosling character, and that is a whole other thing as well. Talking about police corruption and them covering that up and all that stuff. So, but it is a fantastic film. I love to revisit it. I should have revisited it before this podcast, but I did not. So, but it is not my number 2 for a reason, because it is completely fucking memorable. Ryan Gosling he can play anything. He says that about Meryl Streep in Project Hail Mary. He can do anything. She can do anything. But in this case, Place Beyond the Pines made me see that he can do anything, really. And that brings me to my number 1 film, Crazy Stupid Love. I had you there for a moment, right? No, I wish I would have seen Crazy Stupid Love as well. Ironically, he starred with Emma Stone in here, just like my real number 1, La La Land from 2016. The film that will always be kind of lumped in, remembered about that, with that Oscar debacle with Moonlight. Everyone, Warren Beatty and, God, what's her name? Faye Dunaway Well, Warren Beatty said it. He said La La Land. I don't know really what really happened, but he read it wrong. It was Moonlight. La La Land did win, for best director. Damien Chazelle won a bunch of other ones. I don't want to look it up, but oh, oh, Chazelle, Damien Chazelle, was at his peak, creatively, at his peak creative ambition. Him and Justin Hurwitz, excuse me, who are friends at Harvard University together. You can tell in this film and Whiplash and perhaps Babylon, and his first feature film was also musical. I believe it was like very highly inspired by Umbrellas of Cherbourg. But you can tell him classical jazz lovers, musical lovers, and I was never really into the musical, but that just goes to show you how beloved, how magical this film is. It's about a struggling jazz pianist and an aspiring actress who meet and fall in love while pursuing their dreams in Los Angeles. I'm bringing from the wiki here. And that doesn't do justice to what this film was about. I talked about mood earlier with Drive. This is a mood, a distinctive mood about dreamers. It captures that dreamer's ambition so perfectly in the backdrop of Los Angeles, La La Land. Perfect title to describe that dreamlike, landscape. Oh, he has his head in the clouds. He's in La La Land, right? I listen to the soundtrack like I can't even count. So many times per year. Brings me back. I should watch this film more often. I kind of don't want to get sick of it. It's one of those films where I'm like, I want to save it. It's like, yeah, delayed gratification. I want to save it for, special occasion, or maybe on it. I'm definitely going to watch it December of this year because it's its 10th anniversary, guys. Can you believe that? The film was distributed by Lionsgate, written and directed by Damien Chazelle. Runtime of 128 minutes. It feels so much shorter. I wish it went on longer. Budget of $30 million. Went on to make $500 million, guys. Probably his most successful film. I was a huge fan of Whiplash. Whiplash is so badass. Miles Teller as a drummer. That final number. Oh my god. And Ryan Gosling comes back to his rom-com persona here from, I guess you could call it The Notebook and Crazy Stupid Love, which again I didn't mean to shit on it, but I wish I've seen it. Him and Emma Stone's chemistry evolved from that film. So peak pure cinema, absolute cinema, as the kids say it, with the Marty Scorsese gif. And I have no other words for this, guys. I love this film. I adore it so much. He is just so charming, so musically inclined, so just lovable, so affable. So as a heterosexual guy, I desire him in this film. He's just everything. And it's a shame I don't want to say it's a shame what happened to Giselle, because he's still in the industry. He had a couple duds after that. First Man, underperformed. It probably lost money. Babylon definitely lost money. Period black comedy is what it's called. Wow, it's musical elements as well. There's a trumpeter, I want to say, in the film. It wasn't a huge loss. Maybe he lost $100 million for Warner Brothers. No, sorry, Paramount Pictures. But highly ambitious. One of my favorite films, if I ever do this. I don't want to spoil it, but one of my favorite films about making films. What is he doing next? I know this is a Ryan Gosling episode, but I'm going to check what Damien Chazelle is doing next, alright, guys? And yeah, after Babylon, it's hard to bounce back from that. What is this? Heart of the Beast? No, he produced this. Okay, untitled film. Damien Chazelle is writing and directing an upcoming American prison drama film. Stars Daniel Craig, Cillian Murphy, Michelle Williams, and Maya Threepleton. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Distributed by Paramount Pictures. So I guess they're not out of the business of Damien Chazelle. Maybe he's like, sorry guys, about Babylon. Not gonna do it again. Don't worry. I got this other thing for you. Who knows? He's gonna bounce back, guys. It sounds like a really solid genre piece. Sounds like prison drama film. Written and directed by Damien Chazelle. Okay. Here's really quick. here's what he said about Babylon after the box office disappointment of Babylon. "Quote unquote, I'm in a sort of trepidatious state of mind, but I have no illusions. I won't get a budget of Babylon size anytime soon, or at least not on this next one." Okay, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Sorry, guys. This is turning into the Giselle show. There you go. There you go. There you have it. That's my Ryan Gosling top 5 films. I wanted to have, every kind of genre, all encompassing, from his oeuvre. Is that how you say it? Oeuvre, tomato. Giselle's only 41, guys. I keep coming back to Giselle. I'm looking at his wikis right in front of my face right here. So he's 41. He's got plenty of time, man. He needed to get, his bad taste of duds out of his mouth. He's going to be back. He's going to be fine. He's fine. Ryan Gosling, though, guys. What's he going to do next? The Starfighter? Yeah, Star Wars Starfighter, something like. Oh, he's fine, too. I'm not going to worry about that kid. Such a cute kid. Anyway, guys, thank you guys for listening. Went on a little longer than expected because of the Oscars thing I wanted to get off my chest. But stay tuned for the next episode. I don't know when it'll be. Oh, hopefully going to be an in-depth review of Project Hail Mary, which you guys caught a glimpse of here. If you guys have any thoughts on the Oscars, let me know in the comments. If you have any thoughts on Ryan Gosling films, what's your favorite Ryan Gosling films? I know I skipped a lot of important ones there. Is yours similar to mine? Is it different? I'd love to know. We can debate it. Until then, guys, we will see you next time. Happy movie watching. Go see Project Hail Mary in a large format. Actually, I take that back. The IMAX is fine. The visuals were okay. The space scenes were pretty breathtaking. I'll admit that. But this is more of a soundscape movie. Go see it in like a Dolby Cinema if you're looking to save a buck. This is not Interstellar. I don't think Lord and Miller have that kind of, I hate saying vision. What else can I say though, right? They don't have that. They don't have that Villeneuve, Nolan, or even Macquarie action epic eye. So this is more of a comedic, emotional bottle episode type of space adventure. So see it with a good sound. See it with some good sound. Dolby Cinema is perfect choice. And that's going to do it again. Sorry, I went on with that preamble there at the end. Alright, I'm out for real, guys. Bye. And you know what? I forgot to plug pretentiouscinephile1982.blogspot.com. Find us on Pinterest and YouTube, pretentiouscinephile1982.blogspot.com. Alright, with that, I'm really out of here, guys. Bye.
I'm just kidding anywhere.